I mentioned that the differences between the SMSL and the Soncoz SGA1 were subtle at first. After I A-B'd them, I just sat back and I started listening. And at that point, the differences became less subtle. Hey, I'm Randy and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we help folks find high-value hi-fi, home theater, and headphone equipment. And today we're talking about the Soncoz SGA1. It's a balanced headphone amp. So grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and let's talk about the Soncoz SGA1. No sponsor today. We're going to do something different. I'm going to grab a random CD off the shelf behind me and talk about it. Yeah, Octopus scaring me. Invertebrates, my favorite invertebrate. Ooh, purely by random. Korn, Unplugged, one of my favorite records. There's a few covers on here. Starts off with Blind, Hollow Life, Freak on a Leash, featuring Amy Lee from Evanescence, although I don't think she's with Evanescence anymore. I wish she would though. I love that band. Falling Away From Me, Creep, it's a cover, Radiohead song. Love Song, another cover, I think by The Cure. Got the Life, Twisted Transistor, Coming Undone, Make Me Bad, featuring The Cure, and then Throw Me Away, which actually has some really cool Japanese taiko drums at the end. Even if you're not a Korn fan, I even got Digital Dan on this one. Even if you're not a Korn fan, check this one out because it's not super intense. It's quite beautiful. Korn, Unplugged. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. I know you can find it streaming. You can probably find the CD. It's on vinyl, but I don't think it's printed anymore, so it's actually very expensive. Speaking of expensive, today we're talking about the Soncoz balanced headphone amp. I'll show you some pictures just like normal. It's a pretty big box. And on the inside, it's got a real toroidal transformer. Ayoshida Hi-Fi. Ayoshida. Remember at the beginning of Return of the Jedi when Jabba the Hutt's in there in his palace? And I'm pretty sure he goes, Oshuda. Whenever I hear of Ayoshida, I think of Jabba the Hutt saying, Oshuda. See if I can get a clip of that. Currently, this headphone amp is going for $650 on Ayoshida's website. They were nice enough to send this out to me. Comes in a couple of colors. This one's gray. And then there's a black one. The front of it has a very similar styling. Oh my God, it's actually pretty heavy. I can barely do this. The front of it has a very similar styling to a couple of other products called the Matrix Mini series or the Matrix series, which I did a balanced DAC headphone amp thing from Apos Audio or Apos Audio. The styling is very similar. Although this is a pretty nondescript silver box with a black faceplate. We'll get to that later. On the front you have a balanced output XLR, 4-pin XLR, also 4.4 Pentagon output, and then a single-ended 6.35 millimeter big headphone jack, and then simply a round turny, pushy, clicky actuation knob. On the back, you have balanced input via XLR, single-ended input via RCA, and then a 120 or 220 voltage switch, and then IEC connection, master power supply on the back. Let's talk about some power ratings. This is not a powerhouse as far as how much it puts out. At 32 ohms across all different types of inputs, so balanced inputs, single-ended inputs, and all outputs, balanced outputs, single-ended outputs, 420 milliwatts. On a 300 ohm load, i.e. the Sennheiser Drop HD 6XX, which I did most of the testing with because these are 300 ohm headphones, which means they're not super easy to drive. Power ratings, 210 milliwatts on the single-ended output, 840, so that's a lot, milliwatts on the balanced output. A 600 ohm headphone is going to get 105 milliwatts on the single-ended or 420 milliwatts on the balanced. So it's big. Functionally, it's pretty interesting. It doesn't just have a high, low, medium gain setting. It has a variable gain setting from 0 to 6 dB in like quarter dB adjustments. Very fine adjustments here. The volume is interesting too. It's a digital volume control, and you can make very, very, very minute volume changes, but you can also put it into a more heavy-handed volume change, and it's still not heavy-handed. It's just not nearly as divided as the higher accuracy volume. Anyway, I put it into the more heavy-handed one. So it's interesting. You do a one click, one long click, and then 2 short clicks. Kind of like Contra growing up. Right, left, up, down, left, right. Something like that. I'm going to link in the description about the features of this amp because there's a lot of them. I'll talk about some of them just because I found it very interesting, because most headphone amps don't go to this much trouble as far as the architecture or the topology, whatever you want to call it. Headphone amplifier architect. How would you like that to be your job title? Could be worse, right? Headphone amp architect. I like that. Speaking of which, the guy that designed this, his name Ben. Ben designs everything at Soncoz, I think, at least from my research. He designs everything from the ground up to the point where, and I'm kind of jumping forward, this thing has 3 different types of op amps, depending upon whether it's the balanced in, balanced out, whatever it is. 3 different op amp types, total 14 different op amps. It's very impressive. 2 8200 microfarad capacitors for the rectifier circuitry. It's also got a shielded power supply. So the power supply, the transformer is shielded from the rest of the stuff. And then each analog circuit, I think, is also shielded from one another. There was a great deal of thought that went into the engineering of this. From a sound perspective, I compared this directly to the SMSL SH8S. Very difficult model number to say. That is also a balanced headphone amp. Also has single-ended outs and things like that. Now that amp is around the $250 to $300 range. The Soncoz is nearly twice as much, or can be twice as much. I did hear differences. Those differences initially were subtle, but I A/B'd these back and forth. I had a Denafreps Aries 2 running RCA out, and then I actually split the RCAs. Is that the best way to do things? No, but that's how I did it, and I still heard a difference. These are the differences I heard. The SGA1 Meteor. On the bottom end, it just felt like there was more meat on the bone, to use one of my buddy's terms, Ron from New Record Day. More meat on the bone, just seemed thicker. Vocals were more forward on the SG, on the Soncoz. Dumb by Nirvana, Kurt Cobain sounded like he was more forward. And again, this is subtle. But there was definitely a difference between these two amps. Soundstage. The soundstage on the Soncoz was bigger. It was more three-dimensional. The SMSL, it just seemed like the soundstage was kind of a wall. It wasn't bad per se, but when I put the Soncoz on there, things started to develop. Imaging was a little bit better. In my experience, some of these products, and it's not just a toroidal transformer, some of these products with a beefier power supply, oftentimes image and soundstage better. They may be correlated, one may not be causing it, but the products that I have had, I have heard better three-dimensionality with products that have more traditional or heavier power supplies. I'm sure it's probably way more complicated than that, but that's been my experience up to this point. Shoot to Thrill AC/DC, the initial guitar, it comes out of the right channel, on the Soncoz was further back and further to the side. On the SMSL, it was out of the right, closer. So again, the Soncoz is just more spacious than the SMSL. Highs were also more clearly defined, more separated. Instruments were more separated on the Soncoz. And overall, I felt like the Soncoz was more dynamic, had a more organic sound to the music. The really interesting thing is if one looks at the measurements, I think the SMSL SH8S actually has a reportedly higher dynamic range than the Soncoz. Yet on the Soncoz, I was hearing more dynamics, loud to soft, bass, treble, mid-range, just larger, and more natural sounding, if again, ever so subtle. At $650, this is by no means a budget headphone amplifier. But I was talking to one of my patrons, Brock, about it today, and it kind of dawned on me. While I do have a lot of headphone equipment, the majority of my time is spent with speaker equipment, amps, speakers, things like that. Nobody would sneeze at a $650 speaker amp. That's pretty commonplace. So a $650 speaker amp, nobody is going to say, hey, that's too expensive. Frankly, a $650 purpose-built speaker amplifier is somewhat of a bargain. So I need to take my own personal bias out of it, and I need to view headphone amplifiers in the same light. Because if one lives in an apartment or wants to listen to their music at a specific volume level, and they can't have speakers, or they don't have the budget to have speakers, or they're really not interested in speakers, a $650 headphone amplifier may be a great investment for them. I mentioned that the differences between the SMSL and the Soncoz SGA1 were subtle at first. After I A/B'd them, I just sat back and I started listening. And at that point, the differences became less subtle. Very easy to differentiate after I was just listening to the Soncoz for a while. With the HD6XXs, it was a really great combination. I felt like the Soncoz brought the 6XXs to life, and there was a lot of stuff soundstage-wise that was surprising me. That's always a really good indication that whatever combination I have going or whatever headphone I'm wearing is working. The design of this amp is very well thought out, and this is not a carbon copy of something else that somebody else is doing, like topping or SMSL. This is different, and a lot of the parts, pieces, and the way that it was designed is again reminiscent of classic amplifier design, whether it be a speaker amplifier or a headphone amplifier. I'm very impressed with the Soncoz. I didn't have a huge expectation going into this. Frankly, I thought it was just going to be another headphone amp. I didn't think there was going to be anything special about it, and I was wrong. One thing I'm not impressed with, though, is the styling. And it's kind of, it has a bit of a generic vibe to it. It just seems a little bit unfinished on the front. I don't really care personally. I think they could have done some better stuff with the styling of it. I don't know, maybe some screen printing or something. Also, the display. I'm not crazy about the display. It looks a little bit dated. I'm also not crazy about how you control it with the knob and you push this and punch that and roll it around. I feel like that could have been better, but I don't really care about that. It sounds really good. So it may look like it comes in a generic box, but the sound is anything but generic. On the Soncoz SGA1, if your budget allows, I think hard look at this. Again, no expectations going into this, and I was very impressed. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also use the links in the description. This probably will be an affiliate link. So if you click on it, use the link to Aoshida, and you purchase it, then I'll get a commission. You can also sign up for Amazon Music. There's a link in the description. Click on the link, sign up. You get 6 months of Disney Plus for free with some Amazon Music, or 3 months of Amazon Music for free. I get a couple of dollars. You can even cancel. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your Soncoz SGA1. Let me make sure that that's the right model number. SGA1. I got it right. Right, Rocktopus? Right. So don't binge watch anything. Binge listen and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.